Welcome to my show. A guest here. Her name is Jessica Taylor. Mrs. Jessica, how are you doing, ma?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, ma. I'm so glad to see you. Thank you so much, Mrs. Jessica. Firstly, you are a researcher. You do a lot of research. Can you please, Mrs. Jessica, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mrs. Jessica?
Well, I'm 86 now, going on 87 this year. And when I was 31, I had a business in Toronto, Canada. I was quite a new immigrant to the country from Ireland. And unfortunately, when I was out on business, I fell down a flight of stairs onto a steel plated door that split my head open here on the right side. And unfortunately, I lost my business, and there was no CAT scan or MRI in Toronto Hospital and all those years ago. So I was let out into the world with undetected brain injury, and had to fend for myself. And fortunately, there's a lot of comedy in it as well, because when you sort of, it's like arriving on a new planet and not knowing anything about it, or having all your memories wiped clean about everything that you were educated. So what I did was, some people helped me. There was very spiritual people. I was in the Isle of Wight at the time, and they said, Jessica, why don't you go to the library and just start researching and, look up books and things and learn bit by bit. So I did. I went to the library there, and it's a very spiritual little town ride in Isle of Wight. I went to the librarians and I said, I've had a brain injury and I don't know anything. Can you help me? She kind of gave me a really strange look. And then I said, well, my friend said to go to the research room. She said, well, what do you want to research? And now I was agnostic. I didn't know anything about religion, God, or anything else. And the words that came out of my mouth didn't come from me. It came from the universe, God. So she sent me into the library and showed me where all of these Vatican literature were, encyclopedias from the Vatican itself, and they literally fell out onto my hands. Literally, like it's like my friends say, they were waiting for you, Jessica. That started 20 years research on the science of the supernatural. And guess what? That is the Vatican's meaning for theology, the science of the supernatural. This is mind-boggling, because the supernatural is something that they won't allow people to discuss. So
Yes.
I learned so much for myself. I thought I've got to share it with other people.
It's a massive experience, Mrs. Jessica, and I'm also glad that you are still, you are still standing today. It's a pleasure and it's an opportunity, Mrs. Jessica. And I would also like to ask if you've written any book or you are personally planning to write any book, Mrs. Jessica.
I've written a book about everything that I learned, and it's entitled Spiritual Awakening in Search of Hidden Jewels. And I'm really fond of the cover.
Okay.
So that is my whole 20 years research in that book.
Oh, that's the massive book. Thank you so much, Mrs. Jessica. Firstly, I would like to dive into the point of some of the historical and theological references to reincarnation, Mrs. Jessica. We have a lot of early Christian teaching. I would like to ask Mrs. Jessica, what do you think are some of the historical or theological references to reincarnation in early Christian teaching, Mrs. Jessica?
Well, for starters, there's chapters called Ecclesiasticus in the Vulgate Bible of 400 AD. Now, that Vulgate Bible, only clergy, only the priests were allowed to read it. The public wasn't allowed to read that. But I was fortunate to befriend in Ireland, to befriend a retired canon of the Roman Catholic Church. And he shared that book with me, which is incredible. And Ecclesiasticus has something like 23 chapters that are not allowed into modern Bibles.
Wow.
So I've shared in my book what I learned from Ecclesiasticus. And there's one quote: "The soul of every living thing that hath shone before the face thereof, and unto it they return again." Ecclesiasticus 16:31. The face is always been referred to as like God. Go to the face, go to God, right? And also, I studied the Nag Hammadi library. Have you heard of the Nag Hammadi library in Egypt?
I haven't. I haven't.
Oh my God, people should investigate that. They really should look into it. It's all the original sayings of Jesus way before the Bible, way before. All original. This is what we have to go back. I knew in my heart that I had to go back as far as I could in research, and in that library, they have the writings of the Essenes and Jesus' followers. Jesus spoke to his followers about reincarnation many times. And he himself said he was Abraham, but yet that's in the Bible. So people seem to just ignore it. But that's important. He said he was Abraham in another life. And he also spoke about our coming to our mother's womb and making a return to the womb. What does that? That indicates reincarnation. And he also said, I myself will lead her. When his disciples asked him about women, he said, I myself will lead her in order to make herself male so that she may become a living spirit resembling you males. For every woman who will make herself male will enter the kingdom of heaven. So this is all referring to reincarnation, left, right, and center. There was also the writings of people such as Origen, Plato, Porphyry, and other great thinkers and theologians were not to be read or preached to the masses. Their writings were kept back from people. And Aryan speaking people, as well as Aboriginal people of Australia, Madagascar, West African, New Guineas, the tribes of North and South America, and the ancient inhabitants of Europe, such as Druids and Greeks, reserved a reincarnational creed. There was also a wonderful bishop by the name of Bishop Origen, around 553 AD. He was condemned at the Constantinople Council in 553 AD. He wrote about reincarnation, that it was for real, it existed, and he was put in jail and tortured in jail and died in jail. A bishop. Yeah, can you imagine? Wow. It was like,
wow.
Also, Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, Sikhism, Zoroastrian, this is a hard one to say, Zoroastrian, Polynesian, Shamas, the wise men of Africa, the Celtic Druids and the Peruvians also followed the teachings of reincarnation. And ancient Jewish groups such as Pharians and Hessians included the notion of past life in their teaching, as including early Egypt. I have masses of quotes from the Vulgate in my book, from a spiritual awakening, to just enlighten people and wake them up to the truth. Because I use the word jewels in my book, which refers to what's been hidden from us by the church. What I have found I call jewels, because that's what they are to us. And, we're, unfortunately, when it comes to reincarnation or anything of a very spiritual nature, we're like beggars sleeping on a safe full of diamonds. And I stole that quote from an avatar in India who worked just like Jesus did and raised the dead, everything else. And you have there was a man in Africa who raised the dead. I don't know if you know about him. They called him Black Jesus. That's in my book, that story. Yeah. So it wasn't just Jesus had these powers. There are others who have these powers.
Wow, that's
There's other words that are important for people to know. The word mortal, we're told of sin. There's no such word as sin in original manuscript scriptures. There was no word. I was put in at a later date. People err, E-R-R, people err. We all err from time to time. There's no sin. I don't like the word at all. But the word mortal, from the Latin mortalis, actually means death, while the word carnal, because they talk about carnal sin, comes from the Latin word carcere, meaning a new flesh and prison. So new flesh obviously refers to reincarnation, and the word prison refers to the body being the prisoner of the soul itself, the spiritual self that incarnates into a physical body to make amends for negative past karma. There was another man I wrote about, the Emperor Justinian. He put out curses, and one of them was cursing any thought about reincarnation. And that's a Roman emperor, because the Roman emperors had a lot of control and even had power over the church, as far as I'm concerned. And I have the list of his curses in my book as well, The Spiritual Awakening. And after that, then when he put the curses out, the writings of such people as Origen, those wonderful men, Plato, Porphyry, and other great thinkers and theologians were not to be read or preached to the masses. Like there's a lot of corruption. I found, especially, being able to have access to the Vulgate Bible, which only priests do. It was just like a one-off that I managed to be able to read the whole Bible, and especially Ecclesiasticus. That Roman Catholic canon became a great friend. And because he was retired, he didn't mind giving me the secrets that he gave me. And boy, did he give me some secrets which are in the book. Without blow your mind. They blow your mind. I mean, they didn't blow my mind because I didn't know anything before anyway. But when I spoke to other people and said what he told me, they were flabbergasted. Absolutely, totally contradictory to what is taught by the church. I encourage people to do research themselves. Get the Nag Hammadi library books, like the Essenes, the Gospel of the Essenes are in there, and the words of Jesus himself. And there is one particular book that has the words from Jesus straight from his language, Aramaic, to English. None of the masses of translations from Greek to Latin to English. That makes more authenticity as well about the truth of our existence. People need to know the truth, and they need to know that we are connected with the universe, and our connection with each other, connection with nature. It's all one, and we are all one. I mean, that expression has been aired for an awful long time, the fact that we are all one. And we are, and that's to do with consciousness. The consciousness that comes from the universe. Where else can it come from? And even today, there's only a few scientific people who say, yes, the consciousness is not just in our brain, consciousness is there, out there. And we are part of it, and so is the universe. And it's in every human, every animal, even every insect. What are your own feelings about that?
It is a really, really massive feelings, Mrs. Jessica, because I am also a full Catholic. And when I heard when you said there are some readings that, are with the, priests that the priests do have, that is totally different from the teachings of the church, that really, really blew my mind. That means, we really, really know, probably a little about probably the details when it comes to probably historic events and issues that would have happened in the historic time. And when you also said some things that were really about the black Jesus and stuff like that were also really, really huge. Your book will be a very, very massive book that will bring some kind of exposure. And we have to also understand that we are all one and we are all connected to that universe. It is a very, very massive one. You've explained every single thing that that is even written here. You've explained this when it comes to the reincarnation and how valuable it is, and the truth that are probably hidden from us. And I would also like to ask Mrs. Jessica, there's a question I also normally ask during the towards the end of the meeting, Mrs. Jessica. During our ancestral time, there are a lot of things that do exist during our ancestral time, but several of it are missing in our time today. As if there is anyone you would like to bring back from from our ancestral, from our forefather time, what do you think that thing will be, Mrs. Jessica?
Well, for people, no, they can't study. Obviously, they can't study the Ecclesiasticus chapters in the Vulgate Bible unless they get friendly with the priest, and he shares it, which I doubt it will happen. It was just in my case, it was a canon was retired and he was 90 years old, and but I would suggest for people to read the books about the Essenes and the Gnostics, the Gnostic scriptures. They're pre-Bible, and that's what's really important.
Completely agree, Mrs. Jessica. I want to sincerely thank you for this opportunity, for the time on the topic on reincarnation. Thank you so much, Mrs. Jessica.
It was lovely for you to have me,
All right,
and God bless Africa.
Exactly.
It's a
God bless
beautiful country.
Africa. Thank you so much.
Beautiful country.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful people.
Yeah. Have a wonderful day, ma. Bye bye.
Bye bye, dear. Thank you so much again.